Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Florida Watercolor Society 51st Annual Convention and Trade Show. Yeah. I'm Beverly Yankwit, 2022 FWS President. Thank you. But before we get started, I have a couple of housekeeping notes to tell you. First of all, if you're staying at the Wyvern Hotel or the PG Hotel or even the Sheraton, there's a walkway that goes along the harbor that brings you right here to the event center so you don't have to go out on the street. And especially if you're staying at the Wyvern or the PG Hotel because you have to cross 41, and that walkway goes underneath of the bridge. So you don't have to cross 41, and I don't have to worry about anybody getting hit with the car out there. So I highly suggest that you take it, and it's a much more scenic view. Also, you probably noticed that we don't have a lot of signs out there this year because every room has a monitor above it. So every day, that monitor will have the list of everything that's happening in that room. So get into the habit of checking the monitor so you know what's going on. And of course, everybody has one of these schedules, but however, today we had to make some changes to the schedule. So I'm going to tell you, but you don't have to take notes because it will be on the monitor out here. But I just want to make you aware that tomorrow and Saturday, all of the demos that are in Mehaffey River B will be in this room. This is Hibiscus B. So all the demos from Mehaffey River B will be in this room. Then on Saturday, Sandra Webster and Marilyn Valiente will be in Peace River A, and Tom Lynch and Pierre Galdetti will be in Mehaffey River A. So those two got switched. Okay, so things happen. Also, if you ordered a lunch, they will be available out here in the concourse. There's at the end, there's a sign that says cafe. They will be available between 11 and 1, and you will pay for them when you pick them up. If you didn't order a lunch, then it's possible that I would check maybe at 1 o'clock. If you didn't order a lunch and you say, oh, I don't want to go out, I wish I ordered lunch. At 1 o'clock, go and check and see there may be some lunches that people didn't pick up. Maybe some people, I know some people who bought lunches are not able to come to convention, so their lunches will be there. So you can check that, it's possible there's some lunches left that you can purchase. If not, there are a lot of places around that you can walk to. And if you're looking for something fast, I would recommend Tula's. This right out here on West Marion, and you go up to the counter and order, and they're very fast, and they have good sandwiches and salads. Okay, so I think that's everything, so let me introduce Mark. Mark Mehaffey is a nationally and internationally award-winning watercolor artist whose paintings are included in corporate, public, and private collections around the world. Mark is a signature member of the American Watercolor Society, a Dolphin Fellow, National Watercolor Society, the Transparent Watercolor Society of America, Watercolor USA Honor Society, signature life member and distinguished master of Watercolor West, the Rocky Mountain Watercolor Society, the Louisiana Watercolor Society, signature life member of the International Society of Experimental Artists, signature life member of the International Society of Acrylic Painters, among others. He has won major awards in juried exhibitions internationally, including the Silver Medal of Honor twice, and the Arches Paper Company Award from the American Watercolor Society. Mark wrote Creative Watercolor Workshop, published in 2005, and re-released as Creative Watercolor and Acrylic Workshop in 2013. His latest book, In Plein Air Acrylic, was released in 2019. It's my honor to present your demo artist tonight, Mark Mehaffey. Oh, and one other thing I forgot to mention. After he's done with his demo, if anybody has any questions, we'll walk around with the microphone and you can ask your questions and he'll be happy to answer them.
Yeah, and I'm going to turn that on. Is that too loud? Yeah. Okay. Then I don't have to project. So that's a lot of signature initials, isn't it? You know what you have to add if a person uses too many of those? ASS. We're going to start right there. So this is a demonstration. I've done enough of these to know that, and I talked to my class. First of all, I want to thank my class. A lot of them are here tonight. They put up with me for 4 days. That's difficult, especially when it's like all day long. So thank you for that. Demonstrations like this, and I've attended a number of them, and I do have a tendency to sit in the back. Yes, I see you, Steve. So the people that are disruptive are usually in the back, because then you like to talk like this. Just remember that I spent 30 years teaching in the inner city. And so there isn't anything that any of you can do that would surprise me at all. I have stories. So demonstrations, I am going to paint. I mean, you came here to see that, but a lot of it is entertainment too, and so I'm going to chat and talk and try to entertain. Also, if you have questions and it's like burning, then just like blurt it out, and I'll try to address it. So I'm a compartmentalized artist. I'm not one of those who found their voice and then stuck with it. Occasionally, I have a painting in a show and nobody knows who the hell did it. But you know what? It got in the show. So my interests are broad outside of painting, and my interests are broad when I have a paintbrush in my hand as well. My compartments include photorealistic, which I do about 1 or 2 a year just to know I can. Impressionistic, and most of that's acrylic. Landscape as a subject most of the time, but not always. Mixed water media, non-objective, sometimes abstraction. And representational transparent watercolor. I've been painting since I was 10. And so at this point in my life, I have acquired the necessary techniques to say what I want to say. So I let the content of my work drive how I apply paint, not the other way around. That's something to think about, isn't it? So what you're going to see is like a compartment. It's a fun compartment, kind of personal, dwelling within, totally non-objective. That's way too bright. I can't see. Okay. There. Much better. Yeah. So we went there this week. Years ago, and I'm talking years ago, 30 maybe more years ago, I did a painting, and it was a representational painting. I'll share it with you. It's here. At least the reproduction is. It was a visit to Florida. Other way? Is this okay? That you can see that. Yeah, talk to me. Yeah. So this is the King of Key West. If most of you, if you live in Florida, you've been to Key West. A lot of people have been to Key West. It was the only place in the country that I've been where there were a significant number of inebriated people at 10 o'clock in the morning. Neither here nor there, but it was kind of interesting. So anyway, there were 4 of us, my wife and I and another couple were visiting Key West. We were walking down the street and this rooster was a couple blocks down and I was watching him and he was in the middle of the road and the cars would come. And the car would come, the car would come, and the rooster would look at the car, and the people driving would look at the rooster, and pretty soon the car would go around the rooster. Because he was in the middle of the road. It happened again, and we were walking closer, and we were 4 abreast, and we got to the rooster, and the rooster looked at the 4 of us, and we looked at the rooster, and we went around the rooster. And he looked mean. And so as we went around, I'm like this with the camera, right? Because the light was really cool, coming in from the west, setting sun, throwing these raking shadows. Parking lot was in the background with all the pebbles, drain spout from the building, and the yellow curb, which I added a lot of violet to, because I didn't want it so yellow. Yeah, I can't help but teach, sorry. And so I did this painting. It was a full sheet watercolor, 140-pound paper stretched. And I looked at it and I began to think, well, what if I did this and what if I did that? And I had another piece of paper stretched. And so I did another full sheet watercolor right after I completed this. So it was 2 22 by 30 paintings, transparent watercolor on paper, back to back. I rather like the second one better. Rooster. So technically, as you see this painting, it's a non-objective painting, no subject matter, but we all know there is a subject matter here. So it's an abstraction, and I took the body of the rooster, turned it into the red rectangle. I kept the blue iridescent tail feathers, blue iridescent tail feathers, blue iridescent tail feathers. They're just blue rectangles. I also kept all of the textural element of the gravel in the parking lot behind. And an indication of the light as it goes. So both of these were in big shows. Guess which one won an award? This one. Mm-hmm. What are you doing, trying to get rid of the reflection? Yeah, good luck. Yeah. I'm almost done with these now. Did that work? Yeah. Unfortunately, it won't work when I start painting. Yeah. So anyway, that was years and years ago. And so basically what I do sometimes, and it depends on the initial concept going in, is I take my version of reality, this reality. It's kind of cool too, because there's lots of people here. Some of my friends, they know I paint, but I do other things, and so you're going to get a... Everybody smile. Somebody's grumpy. Smile again. Okay, thank you. Yeah, so like the day after I get home, 2 friends and I are going to be sitting in a fishing boat. That's neither here nor there, but that's just, they know I paint, but they also know I do other things. So I take reality, our reality, and I use it as an excuse to design. We're going to call this, and it's, I stole the term, we're going to call this tragically literal. Designed. So I take what I see and I leave stuff out. I move stuff around. I change the size. I change the shape. I change the value. I add texture. I make things smooth. I do what I want, basically. When I pick this up, boss. It's the only time in my life when I'm really, truly the boss. Well, maybe with the steering wheel too. But did you know that the speed limit sign is only a suggestion? Anyway, so that was kind of a turning point. It was years and years ago. A friend and collector bought both paintings, and they hang, above her couch, side by side, kind of as a reminder. So I want to say it again. I take whatever my reality is, and everybody's is different. Physicists think there's more than one reality, by the way. That's just another discussion. But I take our reality and I just use it as an excuse to try and make a good painting. So it's not a photographic thing, although I don't delete photographs. So the last time I checked, I had 57,000 photographs on my desktop computer. And they're in the cloud too, but they're also available to me. And then, I don't know about you, but occasionally I put them in albums, but usually I just run through them all. Oh, that looks interesting. Maybe I can make a painting out of that. So what I'd like to demonstrate is one approach for my non-objective paintings. It's just pure design. It's quite enthralling once you get into the process. We did this during the workshop, and I had to make people stop to try something else. Also, and it was a really good workshop, they go 9 to 4. And one day it was 4:20 something, and everybody was still here working. Also, usually in the morning, I'm the first one here. I was never the first one here. Somebody was here always working. So that was a good thing. It was very uplifting. This is a sheet of Yupo. Yeah. Did you know that I sat back there as you were all coming in and listened to all the comments about my paintings? There are a couple people I need to jump when we're all done here. Yeah. I love to go to art shows and where people don't know me and my work's hanging, because I'll walk up and go, "What do you think about that?" Yeah, and then you get an honest answer, right? Because they don't know that it's your painting. So it was fun to listen to. And yes, a lot of those paintings are transparent watercolor on gesso, because somebody was asking. Yep. So let's play. This is Yupo. When I first started playing with it, it was called Kimdura. Kimdura, before the Yupo Corporation bought that Japanese company out. And somebody sent me a piece because my first website, it was obvious that I'd like to experiment. They sent me a piece and I played with it, and didn't particularly like it, and threw it in the flat file. And then George James, may he rest in peace, came out with his first article, and it was about using Kimdura and the computer to when he first started working on this surface. So I pulled it back out and kind of got even. But let's work with it. It's polypropylene, plastic, petroleum product. You can say no trees were harmed to make this piece of paper. Or you can say it's going to last kind of forever in a landfill. Either way, I like the surface. There's two reasons I like it. One is the textural possibilities, which I'll demonstrate, because all the paint sits up. And the other is the subtractability, which in my mind I really like because I mess up a lot. So I mess up a lot. Everybody messes up a lot. I freely admit that I do, but I push myself a lot towards the edge of failure. It's that edge of failure where you learn a lot about what's going on with your paintings. And so surfaces where I can make corrections appeal to me. Yupo's one. I can do any manner of stuff here, and if I don't like it, I can take it right off. Gessoed cotton paper is another one. It's still rather toothy, but if you put 2 coats of gesso on cotton paper, all the paint sits up on the gesso. I mean, not all of it, microscopically a lot sinks in, but you're able to remove it. So if you make a big mistake, you can wipe it off and go again. You might have to redo the whole painting to blend it in, but that's neither here nor there. And then anybody paint in plein air? Outdoors? Me too. Like once a week, once every other week or so. I'm an outdoor person, and I have skin cancers to prove it. So outdoors, I don't paint in watercolor. No. Even in Michigan, we're humid in the summer. In Florida, it'd be like ridiculous. So in watercolor, I know there's a couple people in the audience that paints in plein air and water. More power to them. I've tried it. I can do it, but I use gessoed paper so I can lift the whites instead of saving the whites. I'm looking at you, Steve. Yep. And so in watercolor, I do it occasionally, but I take 3 blocks because I can draw 3 paintings, do the first pass on the first one, and then while it's drying, do the first pass on the second one, throw it aside, and do the first pass on the third one. By the time I do the first pass on the third block, the first block is dry, and I can do the second pass. Yeah, it's either that or a really long extension cord for the blow dryer. Yeah, so I've solved that problem. Acrylic. So instead of painting in plein air and watercolor, I paint in acrylic, which means even in a humid environment with heavy-bodied acrylics, I can paint, realize that it's the wrong color, the wrong temperature, or the wrong value, wait 4 to 7 minutes, it's dry, and paint over it. And then the whites or the lights I can paint at the end. So it's always about what you need to do what you want to do. No rules. Only rules are the ones you make for yourself. So let us play. This is red, by the way. I beat you to it. So, what color is that? Well, it's really red-orange. It's red with an orange bias. It's a warm red. How's that? Yeah, if I remember, and this time I didn't, I usually hit the edges. Do you see where I'm holding it with my hand? Well, oily fingerprints will show up. Maybe, let's see if we get a fingerprint. Oh, I'm not so oily tonight. Did you know they pay me to do this? Did you know they pay me a lot to do this? Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Did you zoom in or out? Out so you can see the whole paper? Yeah, good. Yeah, I set my studio up for Zoom teaching, and I'm the one that has to switch between 3 cameras and Zoom and paint. Yeah, it was difficult. I'm just putting this into solution. I'm playing for your benefit, and I'm gonna play for a while. I will start a painting and work on a painting, but I'll announce to you, I'm starting the painting. Until then, I'm playing. So when I first got that, way back, when I first got that first sheet of Kimdura, I tried to do a landscape. So I would make like a wash for the sky. Can you see the streaks? Yeah, okay. And I got to about here and decided, oh, well, I don't want those streaks in the sky, so I went back over it, lighter touch. Can you see the streaks? Okay, well, that made me mad. And so I just took the sheet and threw it in the flat file and forgot about it. It was during that time that George came out with his article. So I got it back out, re-wet it, a year later, spritzed it, realized that if I spritzed it, let that paint run, it would dry really smooth. But it took a year for me to figure that out. So I just kept working with this until I could get it to do what I wanted it to do. So there's some really textural cool things that you can do with it. This is one of them, which I don't use very often. Are you ready? Can you tell I set my class up for that one? Yeah, it wasn't that cool, was it? Yeah, but it's kind of cool. The problem is, of course, the alcohol pushes that wet paint aside, and then it never ever dries the way it looks right here, because it keeps working. Do you see it keep working? And if you put too much down, it keeps working, and then pushes your paint aside. So I use alcohol judiciously. The problem with a really cool thing that's small is, and some of the participants in my workshop had this issue, and some of you have this issue, I know you do because I do too, is if you choose to keep something small in a painting, you have to build the rest of the painting around that choice, right? And so it's much easier to make sure that the big shapes work first, and then you can do whatever small stuff you wish to do within there. Visually entertain, add patterns, add huge value changes, whatever you would like to do. But if you keep something, you see how it's getting more amorphous right now. Anyway, if you choose to keep something, then your goal is to work the whole rest of the painting around that. So I like to say that this particular surface is afraid of commitment because you don't want to keep something small. I have a bunch of texturing stuff and stencils. This is, what do you call it? Not shelf liner, the stuff you put under the carpet, I think, so it doesn't slip. Yeah, whatever it's called. Anyway, it comes in different patterns. So it's non-absorbent. The longer you leave it in a puddle of paint, the more evident that mark is, that texture or that pattern. So we'll just leave that there. This is not bubble wrap. I don't use bubble wrap. Years ago I didn't use salt. I pretty much quit using a checkerboard pattern. Why? Yeah, say it loud. Yeah, because everybody's using it. Yep, pretty much. Yeah, so I search for my own way of saying things. Or if it's common, then I try to find an uncommon use. I would bring up that often painted flower in this area, the bird of paradise flower. Yes, I would bring that up. This is the pool cover of my sister's pool. Think big pool and German short hair puppy. Boom, right in the middle. We had to rescue the dog because into the water it went, and then just tore up the pool cover because we had to jump in and grab the dog too. She was going to toss it, recycle it, and I said, no, give me a piece. So this is also non-absorbent. I think when it's non-absorbent, you can lay it in a wet puddle and it will show that pattern. You can also print it. You can print it. So I'm going to print half of this. And I'm going to print it right there, because you'll see the pattern more. This is a really cool pattern. You agree? Yeah. So you should haunt the craft shops, all of the craft shops, the hardware. It's where I get a lot of stuff. This came from the kitchen shop. It's a placemat. Think. Yeah, I had the other 4 pieces to form the mat, and as I teach workshops, they seem to disappear because people think this is really cool. It is. So I'll paint this and print it as well. And because it's open, you can also lift between to get the negative. So you get the counter change between light and dark. Kind of fun, huh? And if I was painting at home and I didn't have an audience, I would be doing this. But, after about 5 minutes of watching me do this, it would be mass exodus. Speaking of which, this demo is over the first time somebody falls asleep. I didn't eat on purpose, so somebody's going to have to feed me after. I'll feed myself. But if your person you're sitting with starts to fall asleep, I want to see an elbow. Yep. Yeah, exactly, because I'll know that I'm getting close to being done. This is a commercial texturing mat made mostly to texture slabs of clay or newly thrown pots on the wheel, but it also makes really cool patterns in paint. So let's paint half of this. It's non-absorbent.
What color are you painting that with?
Indigo, so it shows up. I was so kind with my answer. We'll do that. I make a lot of these. This is a stamp, quick cut. So instead of linoleum, this is really soft, and so I use linoleum cutters, and it cuts really easily. I taught 30 years in the inner city, and 12 of those years I taught high school. So, and we had the linoleum guards, that they hook over and the kids that didn't use it, I would say, you should probably use that, because when you slip, it's going to cut you really, really well. And I just kept Band-Aids because they wouldn't listen right. Linoleum cutter. Well, this cuts so easily, the risk is minimal. So I cut this stamp. It is the Chinese character for peace, something we should all work towards. It is also the title of the painting I set down for the exhibition, In Pursuit of Peace. At home, not here, I have the reverse of this. Anybody a printmaker? So the first time I did this, I had the Chinese character and I cut it out the way I saw it, which meant when I did like this, it printed in reverse. Then I realized that I had to cut it out in reverse so that when I went like this, it printed correctly. I shouldn't tell you that. Yeah, it's not, oh, here, good. Can you see this corner?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, it prints really well. Stamps work really well. This is needlepoint, also non-absorbent, also printable, and a favorite, recent favorite. We all lean one way or another, either towards geometric form, straight edges, 90-degree angles, 45-degree angles, or organically. And I lean geometrically. So these kinds of patterns appeal to me. There were many people in my workshop that watched my demonstration and then ignored what I did because they leaned organically and they designed with flowing forms and round forms. We'll put that there and leave that there just for a second. And remember, I'm not doing a painting yet. I'm just playing so that you can see some possibilities. A faux finisher. People in my class have heard all the stories because I did this demonstration for them yesterday. So can you see all the little lines? Yeah, I got the idea years ago. I was teaching a workshop in Michigan, and I had a young lady in class, and she had hair down to her butt here. And she had a big ponytail, and we got in the middle of experimenting, playing, and she pulled her ponytail around to the front, dipped it into her palette, and did like this with her. It was like a big Chinese or Japanese sumie brush. And so, and she got these really cool lines from the end of her hair tips, and I always wanted that. So this did it for me. It was like, yeah, cool. I got all those lines because I don't have any hair. So let's take a look at what happened underneath here. Yeah, that's kind of cool. I didn't paint that one. So that is the texture that it makes. Yeah, that's fun, isn't it? And then you could, I have done this, you could do the whole painting with this. So you end up with this sort of pattern design, and then as you remove paint, some of this shows in the painting. I think there's one over there that has this in it. Yeah, it's kind of cool too. And my sister's pool cover. Looks suspiciously like bubble wrap. And the needle point. Yeah, I like that. Yep, and that occasionally shows up in paintings also. There's another really cool use for this. Those of you that are into potted house plants or even potted plants on the porch, you can put this as a screen in the drain hole, and then your soil won't run out when you water. Yeah. At one time I had 30 bonsai trees. You know bonsai? Means literally tree and pot. And they were from this big to this big. And they required so much care that it started to take up time that I would rather spend doing other things. So now I have 2. Those 2 don't take up much time. So let's say that I don't like this. I don't really. The good thing about Yupo is if you don't like it, you can get rid of it. Oh, I hear protest. I would say to my class, don't fall in love with anything. Yupo is afraid of commitment. You will end up changing it. I'll save some of this. Yeah, it seems like a little waste of paint. There's a lot of paint on that, isn't there? And it's going here. So we talked about that as well. And for the sake of your paintings, save money some other way, right? Don't go out to dinner. Don't buy the new top that you have to have, or the new sandals. You already have enough sandals. You have enough sandals. I'm telling you right now, you don't need another pair. So save money that way and buy paint, buy paper, buy lots of brushes. The trade people will be real happy with me. So let's put some more paint down on here. If you don't like it, get it off. I mean, it's as simple as that. What else do I want? Oh. Yeah, why not? This is a little opaque, but this is American Journey. You get a lot of paint for your money. And this is Taylor's Pink. Back into solution. Oh, cool. Oh, yeah. See, I like that color better. Did you know they pay me to do this? Now we have a mess, don't we? And we're going to have more of a mess. Just to be brave. What color is that? Oh, no, I don't want to go there. What color is that? Oh, sure. That's the near complement. Blue, green, yellow, orange. Oh, yeah. Cobalt teal. Yeah, I started a painting. It's done. It could be done, right? I mean, who gets to decide? I can decide. I can sign. Done. You can decide not to like it. So I get to this point, and then to get into the design process, I pull a monoprint. So you saw my hesitation, right? Did you see? So I'm into the design process, and my only thought was, when I put this down, now I'm going to have a rectangular shape, this shape, in my rectangular picture space. And I didn't want this implied triangle to be even with this one. So this one's skinny and this one's fatter. So that was my only thinking. I'm going to take all of this off, which will make what's underneath a much darker value. Still a mid-tone, but darker. Sometimes I'll tone it and like leave the paint. And sometimes I'll be very careful and take it all up so it's white. I don't know what's going on underneath there exactly. I mean, I've done this many times before. I just know it will be interesting. So this is the print, and that's the plate. Because of gravity, more of the paint will stay on the plate, less on the print. But usually I work on both. So this is a compartment for me, designing, pure design. I'm just designing this rectangular picture space, but it's a small compartment. I like to demonstrate it because I can talk and do this and play and do all kinds of things, but the way I really work is a lot different. The way I really do this is I work on 10 or 11 or 12 of these at a time. So there's a bunch of starts. They all go, once they're dry, they go in the top drawer of my flat file. And then when it's time to design with these, I bring 10 or 11 or 12 out. And they go on my 2 work tables and my 2 drafting tables and the floor. And then I walk around and look at them and I go, oh, I need to do that to this one. So I do that. And I look over there and I go, and I need to add something to that. So I add it. And I go here and I go, there's no dominant temperature. It's 50-50 warm and cool. I don't like that. Let's make it all warm. So I do that. So I make design decisions and I go from one to the next to the next to the next. I may finish one of the 10 or 11 or 12. That one stays out. All the rest go back in the flat file and then I move on and do other things. So I may not get to those paintings for a week or 2 or 3 until they all come out again. The one that I thought was done, I stare at coming and going for a week or 2 to see if I want to do something to it. And then if I don't, I sign that one. Yeah. Let's see what this looks like. It's cool, huh? Yeah. So the first thing I do is I decide what I don't like. And I don't like the fact that I go all the way around this shape without incident, any incident. So I did this demonstration for my class. I can manipulate the viewer. That's you tonight. So right now you're going here. Odd man out, close, near compliments, not exact compliments. But let's say I want you there. I'll do an incident. Now I have you there. So this goes a long way without anything going on. I start removing paint now. And to do that, I use stencils. And the stencils are made out of, guess what? Yupo. So some of these are well used. Some of these didn't get cleaned up. They're all different sizes. So remember I talked earlier about we all lean one way or another, geometrically or organically. Can you tell which way I lean? Yeah. This bugs me because I'm close to dropping out right here at a corner. So let's get rid of that. If I was home, I would let all this dry probably before I started this process. We don't have the time for that. So this is what we will do. I'm going to get a double image, right, because this is wet. So where this stencil sits will also print. And then you'll see the edge where I'm making the value lighter. We'll take it all off. If I don't take it all off, it looks like another shape, which I do sometimes. So now I've started to alter this shape. Let's alter it again. Force you up towards the blue. I don't like that. I don't like that either. Nope. Don't you talk to yourself when you paint? Yeah. I talk to golf balls when I hit a golf ball. Oh no, it doesn't work. They don't ever go exactly where I want them to go. Well, occasionally. We talked about golf in class too. We talked about a lot of things in class, but we talked about golf, or at least I did, in regards to fear. So, like, I'm afraid I'm going to hit my golf ball in the lake. Or look at all the sand traps around the green. I hate sand traps. Or look at how narrow this fairway is. There's woods on both sides. I know there's snakes in the woods. Where does the golf ball go? If you approach golf from a fear standpoint, it goes in the woods, or in the sand trap, or in the lake. Guess what happens to your paintings if you say to yourself, I'm afraid? No good. No good. Brave painting. So I don't know what your personalities are like. I know what the personalities are of the people that took my workshop, because 4 days in this room together. But when you pick this up, you should be brave. Really brave. Brave. Do you see me pull it up and look? That's because I really don't want any of these edges to be parallel. This cocks in a little bit. This is different than this. That's different than those. Knowing that I can adjust it later in the process. This time, I think I'll tone this. It'll create another shape. So because I'm not taking it all off and creating this ground, it'll look like a separate shape. It would be at this point where I would do this. It would also be at this point where I would probably turn on the fan that sits on my drafting table and turn on the overhead fan and walk away. Maybe work on something else or go have lunch or do something like that and let all of this dry. Most of my precise lifts are done on a dry paint film, not wet like this. So, but I can't paint like I paint at home for you, because then somebody would fall asleep. But would you like to see a demonstration of how I really paint? Yeah? Okay, this is how I really paint. I guess I need my brush. Are you ready? Okay. So a lot more thinking and a little less painting, because each step, everything I do affects the whole, right? And as soon as I do something, that changes the entirety. So when I do landscapes, usually there's a star of the show, a focal area, a center of interest, if you will. When I work this way, I don't mind multiple competing focal areas. So my eye goes here. I kind of make you go there. It definitely goes here. And now it goes there. So I can move the viewer's eye around and manipulate the shapes, the value, the texture, the color, anytime that I want to. I can manipulate you, he said with a smirk. Let's say I also want you here, where there's nothing going on right now. Got you there, didn't I? Yeah. Yeah. So if 100% is done, this painting, which is not a bad beginning for a demo. I have to do something here. This is bugging me. Give me some of this. If 100% is done, then this painting is 20% into it. I need an attachment here to infinity. Yeah, I maybe need one up there too, but we'll worry about that later. You can add and subtract to your heart's content. Especially you can subtract. And you can be quite precise if it's a dry paint film. I've done worse demos. So let's take a look at some that are done. Or let's take a look first at some that are in progress, just a little farther along than this one. So this would be that I have issues up here, but I'll deal with those issues at some other point. This is kind of fun too. Now you know why there's a tarp up here. I can't put it there. I'm running out of room. So let's go to this one. This one's dry. Most of the large shapes have been resolved or close to being resolved. I can make some final adjustments. I'm still not sure about this. And I would like this shape to be a little stronger probably. But we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 shapes. All 6 shapes, really 7, right? All 7 shapes, different sizes. Some similar configurations, but different sizes. Which makes this shape, as it flows through this rectangular picture space, more interesting. More interesting. So at this point, I can go any number of other directions. I can go neutral. I can go darker value. I can stay with a middle value dominance and have this blend into these shapes. I can increase the value contrast. Leave these shapes white, make this shape darker or parts of this shape darker. Any number of different directions I can go with this. This one is maybe, I don't know, half done. But it looks better when you contain it. Uh-oh, was that a yawn? We're getting close, aren't we? Yeah, we're getting close. It's okay. Here's one. where I visited the dark side. There's a lot going on in that painting. Tilt it, hold it up. Here. Yeah, because it's shrink wrapped, so we're getting a glare. Yeah. So you can see the big shapes. These were all lifted, but then I went back in with black gouache. You know, the other watercolor? Yeah. So lots of design work in that painting. I'm running out of room up here. Yeah, I noticed somebody getting sleepy too, so somebody needs to use an elbow. I'm just going to take some of this paint off of here. This is well used this week. This one won't be shiny. So now we're to that middle value dominance and many rectangles within a rectangle. Still working with different size shapes that help define the big shape. And I said many times this week, if you can get the big shapes to work, you can get away with any manner of small things going on within the big shapes. The big shapes form that structure that hold it together. Works in a landscape too, by the way. Works in a still life too, by the way. Works in a portrait too, by the way. So the title is One Bright Spot, because I'm using that contrast of intensity. Dull, bright. There's no rules about any of this, so this one, I don't have a mat for, but I'll put that mat back down. I live here. This is Michigan. We all do this, sorry. So I live here, very close to the Upper Peninsula, maybe an hour from the Mackinac Bridge, right on the shores of Lake Michigan, in a little town village called Empire, 23 miles straight west of Traverse City, for those of you that know where that is. It's cold in the winter. And I also live in the middle of 14,000 acre Sleeping Bear Dunes National Lakeshore. My side yard is part of that National Lakeshore Park. So we have critters, lots of critters. I had to stop putting out birdseed because the bears tore all of that up. I have to take my dog out at night because we have lots of coyotes. 2 years ago, a friend of mine saw a mountain lion a mile or so from my house. So it's pretty big woods, lots of animals. So I started using a symbol. So we have the bird. I'll put the mat, even though it's a square composition. Yeah. Which way? Towards me? Towards me? Right there? Yeah. Now you can see the bird, right? Yeah. So this is all dry and sprayed. So when I get done with the painting, especially on Yupo, all that paint sits up on the surface and it's susceptible to moisture. For years and years, I matted and framed them under Plex or glass with a mat. Traditionally, no problem. Then I had a problem. So I checked around, and a couple people gave me some advice about varnish. So now I use Golden Archival Spray Varnish outdoors. So when I finish a painting, and it has to be finished because you can no longer lift, then one coat of spray varnish this way, wait 2 or 3 minutes till it's dry, and one coat of varnish the opposite way. So this is sealed in. It better be. Yep, it's sealed in. Yeah, no problem. If I did that with just paint without spraying it, that gray would come right up. Yeah. So, and it's signed, so done. Yeah. One more to share with you. So before I share this one, raise your hand if you've ever had art instruction or taken a workshop. Yes. That includes almost everybody, right? This painting was part of our workshop, and it started life just like the demonstration and the other paintings. And then, as part of a 2 or 3 step demonstration, it got reduced. So this had this color and big shapes, and it had black, like the other painting I shared with you. And then I took some pieces of Yupo, taped them down, and wiped off everything to create these shapes, and then created a bridge between these shapes. And then my cursive acts as a textural element to help hold all of that together. Guess what it says? Be careful who you listen to. So that's the demonstration tonight, folks. I would like to entertain questions. This is more fun if it's interactive. And so we already have a question. Do you feel the need for a microphone? Because we have, no, yeah.
How many over there are
1, 2, 3. Oh no, 1, 2, 3, 5 of them. 5. So the one on right behind Ron is on Yupo. The largest one, the one next to it's on Yupo. The one next to it. So the first 3 are on Yupo. The next non-objective painting is on cold pressed watercolor paper, not Yupo. And then gessoed watercolor paper, gessoed watercolor paper, gessoed watercolor paper, Yupo on the easel, and then gessoed watercolor paper, the landscape that's low on the easel. Yeah, so only one on untreated paper. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
How many times do you spray the varnish? Once or more than that?
2 coats usually. Yeah, and I spray the back for my framer's benefit. I'll show you. So when I'm working in the studio, paint gets on the back. And that's resoluble. If somebody has wet hands or water or coffee gets on it, then it makes a mess. And so I spray the back one time too to seal all of that paint in, so that my framer doesn't have to worry about that. Yeah. Yep. Good question. More questions. Oh, look at all the questions. This is good.
I have the microphone.
Microphone. Yeah.
Yes. On the one that you used your handwriting, what did you use to write with?
A water-soluble graphite pencil. So you would ask, why water-soluble?
Why water soluble?
Thank you. We're quick tonight. Because what if I don't like it? Or what if that shape that I wrote across there, or that pattern, needs to be altered? I can always cover it, right? But if it's water soluble, I can lift it off. So always adjustable. I'm always thinking in terms of, can I subtract or do I have to add? So all of these paintings that I demonstrated and shared with you, they also get done large in acrylic. And by large, I mean 30 by 40 is small. So they go 30 by 40, 40 by 40, 48 by 48, 40 by 60. So with acrylic, instead of being able to subtract, it's all additive. Add to get the same things. Yeah, good question. Yes, ma'am.
Do you ever use the wash or the opaque watercolor before the monoprint?
Yeah, she's wondering if I use opaque watercolor or gouache to pull the print, and I haven't much. But I've done it with, Cheap Joe's makes the, like, coastal fog. Essentially, it's gouache. It's transparent watercolor with titanium white added. So I've done it with those colors, but I haven't really done it with gouache, but thank you for the idea. Yeah. Yeah, and Taylor's pink that I used, that's like a quinacridone mixed with titanium white too, so essentially that, yeah, same thing. It does work, absolutely. Yes, ma'am.
When you use the watercolor gesso, right?
Yes.
Do you use watercolors on that or acrylics on that, or you do some of both?
No, those are transparent watercolor on 2 coats of golden white gesso. So I paint 2 coats on both sides. That seals the paper essentially. So I'm painting on gesso. Microscopically, it really accepts transparent watercolor, but gives really cool texture that you can't get with untreated paper. And when I mess up, which I do, I can lift and make the correction.
And for the finish on those, do you frame those behind glass?
I do, traditionally, yeah. I'm experimenting, like a lot of watercolors are, with not putting watercolors behind glass. So it's not an experiment with a couple friends of mine. They're way ahead of me in terms of that. But some people just, I had a gallery owner years ago say, your paintings are gorgeous, but my clients won't buy it because of the reflections. And so. Oh yeah, it's being recorded. I had to be on good behavior because of the mic. I couldn't talk under my breath. Yeah.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
And I have the mic. And I'm enjoying all of this immensely. Yes, hello. This is just wonderful, and I love to experiment myself. I started using like the jelly
Prints? Mm-hmm.
jelly prints, and that was kind of interesting. I'm wondering what material and what kind of pen you're writing with for the calligraphy and or, just...
Yeah, I mean, practically everything is water soluble, so I use crayon dash, crayons, water soluble crayons, water soluble colored pencil, water soluble graphite, and occasionally a micron pen that is not water soluble.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Realizing that if I want to obscure that, I can't lift it, I have to cover it, or parts
Right.
of it. Yep.
And do you ever use the bamboo pen
No.
for writing?
Yeah, I mean, I've used it, but not on this. Yeah,
Thank
it
you
would
so
make an interesting linear mark.
Okay, so if you raise your hand, I'll come to you with the microphone because otherwise we're not going to be able to hear you on the recording, and not everybody can hear your questions.
Hi, I wondered how you put your gesso on your watercolor paper so that you don't get the brush stroke lines, or do you like the brush stroke
Yeah,
lines?
most of the time I like them. That's a good question. So here's your options, right? You can use cold press or rough and apply gesso full strength with a brush, thick, random, which is what I do most of the time, and the brush strokes show up. And then those get incorporated into whatever transparent watercolor I'm doing, regardless of subject. Or you can be very careful with your application and use a softer brush and get rid of the brush strokes. Or you could switch to hot press paper and put your gesso down with a roller and make it very smooth and let it dry and sand it and put another coat on and sand it again, in which case you end up with almost a plate finish. It's very close to UPO, much more grabs the paint microscopically more than UPO does, but eminently liftable, and when the paint moves because of gravity, you get some interesting textures. Yep. Yeah, good question. Yeah, she's not looking up here, is she? Bev, you got to look up front too. Oh, you're coming.
Do you spray finish paper when you're working directly on paper? And how do you change the process when working on paper with watercolor? Do you use the same process that you described with your demo?
This painting, same process, gessoed watercolor paper. Fourth painting over, same process, untreated Arches 140-pound cold press. So yes, it's just, harder to lift because with untreated paper, cotton paper, a lot of the paint just goes into the paper. So I do a little bit more additive as opposed to subtraction. Yeah, good question. Yeah, I'm experimenting with that. Some of my colleagues, I have great success with varnishing watercolors and then presenting them like an oil painting, traditionally framed, and ditching the glass and ditching the matte. Yep. So I'm still in the let's see how this works process. Yep. Yeah, a lot of my work is a little more contemporary than a traditional frame, and so I want something where I can float it without a mat, and so I'm still playing with that. Yeah.
Originally, I understood that UPO paper, as it ages, gets brittle and breaks apart. Have they changed the process for UPO paper?
Yeah, I've been working on it for what, since George James passed away, and before that, and I've never had a problem with it yellowing or cracking or anything. I've had an issue with the painting, but not the surface. So if you think about it, we have warnings all the time about SUP. SUP, single-use plastic. This is plastic. And the warnings are, this is going to last for a really long time before it breaks down in a landfill, and they figure your paintings on UPO same. Last probably too long. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, they've been chomping. Uh-huh.
Mark, do you do anything to prepare the UPO before you paint on it? Do you wash it down?
If I remember, I do the alcohol thing. I
Okay.
forgot. I forget a lot of the time. Seems as we age, that happens. So I usually rub the edges because that's where people grab it when they package it and stuff. Sometimes I'll go over the middle. But yeah, that's what I do. But when I forget, it doesn't seem to make much difference because I can get rid of fingerprints by taking the heel of my brush and scrubbing with the heel of my brush. And then the oil just goes away. Yep. Just rubbing alcohol. Yeah, 70%, 90%. I mean, it all works. Just breaks down the oils in your finger.
And what weight UPO are you working on?
The medium weight?
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I use the heavy weight, but I go larger. So they make it in the 26 by 40 size. So if I'm going to up the size, then I up the weight also. Yeah.
I know from your class that you like to experiment, but I wonder if you think that UPO is the best medium for that experimental nature.
Yeah, that's a good question too. You can experiment on anything. During COVID, how many people experimented with old paintings that were sitting around? Mm-hmm. Yeah, some interesting results with all those paintings that got stacked up because we were stuck, right? Yeah, and so like collage, gesso works really well. Tearing, repurposing, finding something that was in the painting that wasn't originally intended, lots of experiments along that line. So I'm not one of the advocates of you need to find your voice, whatever voice that is, visual voice, and stick with it. I say bravo to my colleagues and friends who have done that, but that's not me. I feel, just like with the speaking, that it's possible to speak with more than one visual voice. And so that's the path that I have traveled down. It's served me well, and as I travel and teach, I know that there are lots of people in my classes who feel the same way, and mildly constricted because we read so much. Oh, you need to find your visual voice and stick with it. And I have friends who have painted the same way, the same subjects for years and years, and I say to them, if you love it, good for you. Yeah, but it would bore me to death. Yeah, good question. More? Yes, ma'am.
Just sitting here listening to everybody, and I thought of the word granulation. We all know that certain colors and certain manufacturers, the paint granulates a lot, and that's a lot of fun on rough paper, and it could be fun even on smooth paper, but how is it on Yupo?
Yeah, you have to use the granulating colors on Yupo. So like manganese blue hugely granulates, and some of the indigos, depending on the manufacturer, ultramarine, depending on the manufacturer, they will all granulate even on a smooth surface. On gesso, all colors granulate, or it looks like they do. So the heavier pigment particles settle into the microscopic valleys of the gesso, and then the smaller pigment particles up above, so you get a speckled effect without trying. Yeah. Yeah, instead of a roller, you mean? Yeah, I mean, like, yes. Yeah, I mean, if we had a lot of time, Steve, I would have gone there. Yeah. Yep. Actually, those need to be cleaned because I forgot to clean them from today when I was teaching. Yeah. So a lot of, like all of the black in this one, foam roller. Yep. Done with a roller and stencils. Yeah.
Mark, I know listening to some of the demo that you gesso both the front and the back of the paper, and I'm just curious why.
Yeah, two reasons. One, if I mess up on the front side and I don't feel like wiping it all up, I can flip it over and just paint on the back, right? And two, if you only gesso one side, it dries unevenly and curls. So by doing both sides, it stays flat.
Thank you.
Way in the back, Bev. She's going to bring you the microphone because they're recording this, which is dangerous considering I'm talking.
In design elements, what criteria do you use to make sure your big shapes are working?
Yeah. So I don't keep in mind all the elements and principles of design. It's difficult. I had a gentleman in a workshop years ago in upstate New York, and we had started that first day, and I had addressed my concerns about design. And I sneak design in my workshops because if you presented your workshop as a design workshop, hardly anybody would sign up for it. And anyway, I had this gentleman in class, and I had addressed what I thought was important and given a handout with the elements and principles of design all laid out. And everybody had gotten to work, but this guy was frozen over his table and he wasn't working. And as I walked around, I let it go the first time and helped a few people and then sort of kept an eye on him. His name was Pete. And then came around again, 10 minutes later, he was still not working. Everybody else was working. So I came back and I said to Pete, Pete, what's up? Now, Pete was an MD. He also had a degree in philosophy and was head of surgery at a major East Coast hospital. Pete was sharp. And he's sitting there frozen over this, and he said, Mark, for the life of me, I can't figure out how to get all of these in there. And I said to him, Pete, you don't have to. You know, the principles of design guide our use of the elements. Those are our tools. I said, pick one or two principles to guide your use of all of this stuff that we use. Right now it's a pencil, Pete. Pick a couple. So for me, my most important is dominance. That's the most important principle of design. Because through dominance, whether that's dominance of shape and configuration, whether it's dominance of value, light, medium, or dark, whether it's dominance of temperature, warm or cool, dominance will supply unity. And that's my goal. Good question.
I have a couple of questions. First of all, what did you pull the monoprint with? Was that
another piece of UPO?
Okay, and
Yeah.
that will become another painting.
Absolutely it
Cool.
will. Yep.
Okay, and I am not a big fan of UPO, but I am in love with Aquaboard. Have you tried Aquaboard?
I have, and it's similar. Yeah, because the paint sits up a bit. Yep. And I do it on Aquaboard too. There was a joke there, but a lot of you didn't get it. Sorry. Couldn't help myself. I told you it was dangerous giving me the mic.